On today's show, Darrell and I are talking about how we teach the mental game at Athletic Mission Baseball Academy in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hey guys, welcome back to Strategic Baseball Podcast. Today, Darrell and I are going to talk about how we teach the mental game at Athletic Mission Baseball Academy. Geoff and Darrell here, and we help baseball players get to the next level with a strategic advantage so that they can play with supreme confidence against the best players at any level. In every episode, we promise to deliver value on the strategic side of player development to help your players compete with players just as good, if not better than them. Remember, Darrell's a pitching strategist, I'm a hitting strategist, and this is Strategic Baseball Podcast. If you are interested in joining our circle, head over to strategic-baseball.com and submit your email. I always get a reminder each time we release a new episode. If you are a player, parent, or a coach who is interested in learning more about how the strategic advantage baseball process works for you and your unique situation, please email me at jeff@athletic-mission.com or darrell@dc@startpitching.com, which you can find in the show notes. We would love to arrange a time to speak with you and see how we can help. All right, Darrell, so today we're talking about how we teach the mental game at Athletic Mission Baseball Academy. So I'm going to let you take it away.
Yeah, man, I love this piece of it. For years, this is what I focused on. But I think hopefully after we get done with today's show, that people will see that the way I define the mental side of baseball and what you and I have been working on here at Athletic Mission is not the motivational, positive self-talk, kind of you believe in yourself, you can do it. Is there an aspect of that? I believe so. But I think once we put it in context today, hopefully, coaches and players and parents will see that when we talk about the mental side, it's really what you and I break down into two pieces of baseball development. We call it the U side, which is all about their training, their measurables, their athleticism, and their individual baseball skills. To me, that's the mental side. That really is when you are focused on what you can do, what you believe, what you know that you need to do every day to continue to get better. Once you've mastered that, you've mastered the mental side. It's really about the way you think about what you should be doing and what I define as a start plan, your specific thoughts and actions required today and tomorrow and takeaways. And when you get that piece right, then it's really about you understanding the context of what you need to be doing day in and day out, and then what is the takeaway from that. And so that's, again, when we start talking about the mental side, how all of that impacts players is what you and I have been dissecting with different assessments here. And we talk about the way they look at their measurables, the way that they look at their velocity. We'll just break pitchers down. When you look at a young pitcher and you ask them, how do we create power? If they can't explain that to you, then that is a mental thing. That clarity and understanding of how I do something, we have to teach it. These guys are not robots. They're not computer programs that we just punch in some code and then all of a sudden it spits out a result that we want. And so I think we've missed that with all of the advances of technology, and you and I use it. We got the Rapsodos. We got all this stuff that we use not to judge people, but to assess people. And when we look at it from that perspective, and we start really digging deeper into, okay, what makes up the mental side of baseball and the mental side of pitching, then it's really what we call you-focused. And when you get it you-focused, then it changes what we want to do individually. And I think then we can start focusing on the step-by-step process. And we touched on this in the last episode a little bit when we talked about boring practice and digging deeper into boring practice. When you start talking about boring practice, it's really got to be based on, here's some base stuff that we do. Here's a strength and conditioning program, maybe a velocity program or a mechanics program. We know there's hundreds, if not thousands of them out there in the world that, different coaches use, and some of them are really good and some of them are kind of sketchy. But when we look at it in the context of how do we create a mindset of what my plan should be and what I should specifically be working on, then that's the mental side of baseball. The preparation piece of it, how you prepare to learn what you need to learn, and how do we learn and really master what we need to be practicing. And I think that's missed, man. We just jump from shiny object, shiny object, shiny object. And the brain never does get comfortable with like, okay, Darrell, this is what you said I need to do today. Now let's practice this until it absolutely don't work. And I think the mental effect that has on players, this jumping from technique to technique to technique to different tool, or the different ideas or the different concepts or different philosophies, I think we're just absolutely ruining a lot of young players because they're trying to learn the different aspects of what they're trying to grasp from different coaches. So if I'm going to a mechanics guy, and then I go to my summer ball coach who has me working on this, and then I go to the high school coach or maybe my school ball coach, and he has me working this, and then I got private pitching instructors or hitting instructors. And when you got 5 or 6 different voices, and not including the internet and Twitter and everywhere else, YouTube, when you start introducing all those things into a young player's head, and the truth is, from all of those different sources, they're just trying to figure out, how do I throw harder, or how do I get stronger, right? Or the coach told me I don't throw hard enough, I need to add velocity. And so, you know what? And then we have all these different echo chambers that are kind of going in their head. Then that affects them mentally. That is not a physical thing yet, because we don't have clarity, and we haven't really tried to figure out, or we don't know how to figure out what exactly I'm supposed to do or how to do it. And I think once we get them clarity on, like, here's the process, here's, like, we break it down into 4 levels. We call it the strategic advantage baseball process. Competitive advantage is your athleticism, it's mechanics. We put that in one kind of compartment. We break that down. Now, depending on what time of the year it is, usually in the off season or when they really are just trying to learn and develop as a player, we stay in that competitive advantage level, that kind of compartment, because we really want to focus on just being the best athlete we can, getting strong, learning the techniques, developing the movements that it takes to be a baseball player, a pitcher, or hitting and fielding, or fill in the blank. And we kind of stay in that kind of, entry level lane. We call it the beginner lane, that competitive advantage. And again, your athleticism and skills in that level can be better than some of the other kids that age that you're playing against. And that feels like it's a baseball skill because you're currently better than the average player at your age. But the reality of it is, when you start playing against kids just as good or better than you, then guess what? That competitive advantage is only a competitive advantage until it's not. And so we got to realize that is more of a training, beginning level mindset. Then the second piece, when we start talking about mastery and how do we take our competitive advantage skills, the different pieces that we've learned and where we're currently at, and turn that into a baseball skill. Now we're practicing until mastery. Now, if I'm trying to learn my fastball, I'm trying to master my fastball. How do I consistently move and release a pitch that is going to be something I can use in a real baseball game? See, that's as simple as what it takes. Now, is there complexity in what my grip, wrist, and forearm angle is, what my arm slot is? Do I understand how to consistently move and have consistent movement patterns so I can get into that release point consistently? Yeah, that's what we're practicing until mastered. That's the piece that we got to get. But there is no magic fastball. There's only your fastball. There's no magic curveball grip. There's your curveball. So once we learn and give them the clarity on how to grip a pitch, how to set their wrist and forearm angle, then we practice that until mastery. And I think when it don't work instantaneously, Geoff, then it affects them mentally. Yep. Or if we don't give them that feedback in today's world, then we're moving on to the next technique, the next coach, the next shiny object. And then that young player in their mind, their brain is always like, dude, should I do what Geoff told me to do? Should I do what Darrell told me to do? Should I do what fill-in ex-coach on the internet? Should I do what YouTube told me to do? Should I do what my high school coach told me to do? Should I do what my summer ball coach told me to do? And then when we really start sitting down and you and I assess these guys when they come in, that is real.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to admit it, but you and I know that's real, because when we start talking about the decision-making process, hey, walk us through game day. Walk us through a one hitter. Walk us through how do you decide what pitch you're going to throw? And man, the feedback we get is usually some jumbled mess, or eventually it's like, I don't know, the coach just calls my pitches. And at that point, man, if we don't grasp as coaches that is the mental side of baseball, the way these players think, the way they process information, how we help them find clarity and understanding about what we're wanting them to do so they can practice it and really develop their own confidence in their skills. When we miss that clarity and understanding, because it's so easy for us to just, grab a baseball, put their glove on and throw them on the mound and say, hey, let's video it and start super hyper analyzing what they're doing. And we don't realize the effects that it has on these players. And I think once as coaches, we can step back from that. And it's not that a certain technique might not work. It's not that this tool or this drill might not work. But if that individual player don't have clarity and don't have understanding on how they're to do it for real. And so many times we train players not to ask questions. We train these players to be scared to death to ask a question. And if there's one thing I could beg coaches to quit intimidating players into not asking you questions. And this might seem a little bit rough or harsh, man, but quit asking players to do stuff that you can't explain to them why they're doing it.
Right.
And not because you told them to. These kids today got too much, as we've been talking about this whole show, they got too many sources of information. They can fact check us to death, man. And personally, I love it.
Yeah.
Because if I can't explain, hey, man, why we should do it, because most of the stuff that you and I do here at Athletic Mission, we didn't invent baseball. We're just helping these guys get clarity and understanding on how to take their skill set and master a baseball skills, so they can go play in a real game and have fun and be as good as they can possibly be with it. And is there more that goes into it than that? Absolutely. But that's still the goal. That's still the big picture piece of it. But if we can't get to the point where, as coaches and instructors, I don't care what level you're coaching at, where you're at, if you're implementing a tool, a technique, a drill, anything into a practice or getting a young player to do it, you ought to be able to explain to them why they individually, specifically should do it. Not everybody should do it. Why they should individually do it, because baseball is an individual team sport, man. And if you don't understand that as a coach and as a player, then you're going to struggle, because not all players are created equally. Not all players got the same talent, skill level, advanced baseball skill set that plays in a game. And if we don't realize that all of this stuff that you and I have been talking about today impacts the way these guys think and feel, that is truly the mental side of baseball. And the next show, we'll talk about the strategic side of it, because that's where a lot of people want to take the mental side too. If I'm struggling on the mound, that it must be a mental problem because I'm healthy and I'm physically capable of doing something. But that's not true. Most of the time, you and I see guys struggling in the game that are physically capable and have talent in that. Most of the time, it's a lack of strategy that they don't have. That is preventing them from seeing what this pitcher is trying to do to them, or what this hitter is trying to do to them, and how do I make that strategic advantage mindset shift to now it's not about my physical capability, it's more about me having a strategy and me playing the game in real time based on what's really happening. And so I know that's kind of deep, man, and we've been kind of breaking it down, but we want, at the level you and I teach, man, we want guys to have clarity and understanding. And if we start with that on everything we do, if they don't have clarity and understanding, then we don't start the drill. We don't start the work until we at least have an idea. They have an idea of what we're trying to get out of this and what the takeaway should be. And maybe that takeaway changes for the player, or maybe it changes as we work through the workout and the practice that we're really trying to focus on. But at the end of the day, we got to start with some idea of clarity and understanding. And once they get that, then it's amazing how their confidence develops and how that competitiveness develops, because now they see that it's not just luck or it's not just wishful thinking, that when they go play in a real game, that what they do is because they worked at it. They practice it. They got a baseball skill that they can use against an opponent. And now they're going out and playing the game in real time, man. And that's the cool part about it.
Yeah, man, you nailed it, man. You did a good job explaining that. So, but like you said, one of the activities that we tend to have our guys fill out is the hitting and pitching related activities. Because like you were talking about, these guys, they're getting hammered with information right and left. So we want to know what these guys are hearing, what they're seeing, and then so that we can figure out how we can help them. Each individual take the information that they're hearing and, 3 or 4 or 5 different ways, and help them develop that clarity and that understanding so they can figure out how to actually use it to help them get better and get ready for game day. Cause we've all seen it all the time. I'll ask the guy, hey, take me through your process. And he's blending like 2 or 3 different things, and he doesn't really make sense. And so, just because it becomes lip service, it's like he's confused as heck, you can tell. And so this confusion is what's manifesting into what he eventually thinks and what he feels. And now we get into what coaches believe that this guy has a mental game issue that he needs to work through, when really he probably needed more of the clarity and the understanding. And then he needs to know that his coach knows what he's trying to accomplish, so that he's not second guessing himself and making sure that he's doing what he thinks his coach wants instead of doing what he knows that he should want and what he should be doing. But this lack of clarity and understanding of what his coaches want is killing him. We say it all the time, lack of clarity kills understanding. And now the coaches get mad and the kid gets down, and now we create mental game issues. And when really he really was really lacking like clarity and understanding. Most kids want to do what their coaches are asking them to do, but they just need a clear understanding, and they need clarity, and then they need to understand what the takeaway is. And if they don't have that, man, then we're confused. And again, like I said, that manifests into what you think and what you feel, which eventually shows up on game day, and now you have mental game issues. So, but you can see, man, how, this messes with a guy's confidence, and now they're telling themselves stories that they sometimes believe, hopefully they don't believe.
Yeah, and I think too, man, and you and I, we always focus on that we don't want our players to have conflicts with their coaches. I don't care if it's summer ball coaches, their strength and conditioning guy. We try to build bridges, man. We want them to understand what that strength and conditioning guy, because I'm not one of those that believe every technique is evil, every drill is wrong or crazy. But I think the takeaways that these players have, if it's not clear and it's not understood, and the way we try to help coordinate that here at Athletic Mission is we want to know what the high school coach wants them to do. We're not sitting here bashing high school coaches, or we're not bashing summer ball coaches. And we're really trying to help these young players know that, hey man, when the coach says this is what he's probably trying to get you to do. And so it's not about saying they're wrong, they're right, this is crazy, don't do this drill, don't do that. But at the same time, I think as coaches, whether it's high school or summer ball or whatever, if we're going to implement any kind of workout, any kind of training, any kind of drill, and And if you don't really understand why each one of your players individually needs to do that, then you got to be open to let them ask questions. Because if not, they're going to bobblehead you, and they're going to give you all the immediate feedback as coaches that you think that you want. And it might go out and they might have success and not do anything that you just told them to do. Or it might have absolutely nothing to do with the drill work that you've been doing, but they just clicked, that something hit. That if we don't understand that mental aspect of the game, of how as coaches we impact players, and how our conversations, and because we think we explain it brilliantly, and I know I'm guilty of that. I talk 100 miles an hour, and I go over these guys' heads a lot of times. So I have to rewind the clock and say, hey man, seriously, if you got questions, you got to call, you got to ask, you got to text, you got to do stuff that break that down so we can get to that. Don't sit on it for 2 weeks. Don't sit on it for a month, and then all of a sudden it kind of manifests into a bigger problem. So the big takeaway I have from this one is the mental side of baseball can be complex, or it can be really super simple. But as coaches and parents and instructors, if we give these guys permission to truly ask questions about the things that we're having them do, and we don't get defensive and offended by it, but we really embrace that, then that's the sign that we're growing as much as the players are. And I think if we get the game to that point where we let the ego go, and we really do, and I'm not giving players permission to be ignorant about it, and parents to sit here and question everything everybody does. There's no perfect way of developing pitchers or hitters or becoming this elite level player. It's a process, and it really is a process. But the process is about, does the player have clarity and understanding about what they're trying to do so they can truly have a chance to practice and master that skill? And if they take that away and we start having more open conversations and more collaborations between summer ball coaches and high school coaches, instead of them fighting against each other, or us as instructors or private instructors, there's enough to go around that we should be able to have a collective conversation where we can really make it about the player and not about us and about our personality or philosophies. And I think if we do that, Geoff, I think that not only will the game get better, the players will ask better questions, and it will make us better coaches, because we'll help them find the answer, but we just need to give them permission to really ask us the question that they really want to ask.
Right. That clarity and understanding is my takeaway. Our guys need clarity and understanding for every single thing that you ask them to do. We cannot assume that they know what you want, because,
right.
Here's the thing. They're going to give you the lip service. They're going to act like they know what you want. They're going to act like they get it. But man, as coaches, we really have to make sure that they understand and that they have a real takeaway from what we want them to do. But like you said earlier, Darrell, we need to help them figure out what they can use and what will give them a strategic advantage on game day. And then what they need to filter out, because there are some guys that need to filter some things out, because it does no good based on what kind of player they are or where they are at. Now we also understand that some guys have to do what their coaches are making them do. And, what we want to do is just help them develop a takeaway so that at least they're not getting worse. They're at least taking something away from it. So that's going to be my takeaway.
Absolutely, man. That's good, bro.
Very good. So that was how we teach the mental game at Athletic Mission Baseball Academy. So if you guys are finding any value in these episodes, please leave us an objective review, and then head over to strategic-baseball.com and join our circle, and we will catch you on the next show.